all time. That was a three-way tie previously. Gurney now the outright holder of that record. Third and fourth, the second row is coveted by Williams. This time Nigel Mansell is ahead of Keke Rosberg. They struggled in Sao Paulo. They evidently had pace. It's a quick car, but they fell towards the back. And this time they will be hoping to do something better. Though, as far as I'm aware, they don't actually have a live manager at the moment. So we'll see. Mario Andretti goes from fifth ahead of Carlos Reutemann. Lotus was surprised to see Reutemann beating Andretti last time out, but there we are. Andretti ahead today. Jean-Pierre Jarier, the championship leader, goes from seventh. He's joined by Jean-Pierre Jabouille, his teammate. And the Noah's Ark top 10 is completed by Aston Martin, with Jean-Pierre Beltois ahead of Jochen Rindt. Arrows showed very strongly in Brazil, with Eddie Cheever taking fourth place, the best ever result of the team, and that's put Mauro Baldi under pressure. They start from the sixth row ahead of the two McLarens. Ronnie Peterson on the podium in Brazil. Michael Andretti still in the car, but for how long for, now that McLaren have signed Bruno Giacomelli as a reserve. Jackie Ickx had a pretty good qualifying. He's ahead of Rolf Stommelen, which is a bit of a surprise because Stommelen is known to be a good qualifier. They're split by the two Brabhams of Alessandro Nannini and Carlos Pache. And on the back row, it is the two Tyrrells, Pache Pai, the winner here last season, and the man who finished 8th in Brazil, and Jody Scheckter, the two-time champion, last on the grid. It's going to be an interesting race. We're expecting probably slightly worse tyre wear than previously, which was the case in Brazil. So I would hazard a guess that the hard tyre starters will be in a better position come the end of the race. There were some rumours about changes to tyre temperatures, but we'll see if those are the case. If they are the case, that will really throw things up in the air for the hard starters. But people have said that, well, actually, that it hasn't made a material difference at all. But anyway, we're going to probably see Ferrari and Williams run away in the early part of the race. It seems as though Williams are absent at the moment, disappointingly. But we'll see if they do turn up. But otherwise, we're probably expecting McLaren, Ligier and Lotus to battle at the front as they did last time out. So here are the lights. Coming on now. And they're off, and it's a very bizarre start, as per always in recent times. Lots of cars getting away at different stages. Some teams having a much better start than others. And Gurney continues to lead from Rosberg. Jabouille up to third briefly, but Beltois gone and got him there. And it's Andretti who rounds up the top five. So, halfway through the first lap. Lots of drivers bogging down. Gurney running away at the front, the second and a half lead over Rosberg. Beltois is up to third. And as far as I'm looking at it, it seems as though we may have a bit of problems with tyre temperatures. Andretti's still in the top five. Peterson's really struggling further back in the other McLaren, but it's looking like a good day as Eamon passes Andretti. Up to sixth, and Jarier back into the top 10. So Gurney's got a good lead. It's looking good for some people, but not others. I do think there has been a change, possibly to the way that the tyres work, but I'm not completely certain as Peterson and Mansell battle over 12th. Ickx has fallen away. It's been a great shame for Arrows. I suspect they're not going to challenge for the points today, as it looks like Ligier trying to get away from Chris Eamon. And there they go. They bring Jabouille ahead of Jarier. So Ligier looking really quite strong. Rosberg and Gurney at the front. Streaking away. Beltois in a pretty good third position, I have to say. Good stuff from the Frenchman. He's looking rather nice at the moment. His teammate, less so, down in 14th, Jochen Rindt, as Andretti puts pressure on championship leader Jean-Pierre Jarier. I suspect that start will have to be sent to the IGP team because that was not quite what we were expecting. But there we are. Another problem with the game, sadly. It looks as though, however, Taiwan slightly worse as expected. As Mansell starting to come back through the field. Jarry, the champion leader, passed by Andretti. Peterson still in the train. Depay, I think, getting past Stommel. So RWB not looking particularly quick today for whatever reason. Is Andretti, the lead McLaren, not what they expected, I must say. McLaren really were expecting that it would be Peterson leading the charge, although the very odd start is perhaps somewhat to blame for that, as Mario Andretti coming up behind his son. So they're both working on catching Jean-Pierre Jabouin. I think that's Peterson struggling to get past Alessandro Nannini. The Italian, pretty good last time out. He finished 11th in Sao Paulo as Peterson makes a move past Nannini. But anyway, Gurney leading by 3.3 seconds from Rosberg, from Beltsworth, from Eamon. Eamon finished 4th here last season, his best result in his career. As Andretti, Michael that is, with a pretty poor load of boost, and he's been passed by his father and by Jarier. So not a great bit of management there by Michael Andretti. He's falling through the field back towards his teammate, but those are the two top hard runners. And there goes on the boost Carlos Reutemann. Mansell's really struggling, I think, in terms of pace. I think Mansell's being held up here by Andretti and Peterson. That's going to allow him to catch up. And then it's Rins and Pache and Depay struggling further back. It's not looking good for Tyrrell at the moment, but it's very early doors as Mansell does pass Andretti. Gurney pulling away at the front, continuing to do so. As they're all trying to get away, and that's bad news for Nigel Mansell. He's going to lose out to both McLarens here, which is unfortunate for him. And the two McLarens still in the top 10. If hards are the way to go, which I think the expectation is that they are, unless the 4-stop is a brilliant strategy, it could be coming up trumps if these guys are on the hards. But really, apart from the McLarens, Nannini's doing all right. Depay's stuck up behind the man whose seat he took, Jochen Rindt, which is disappointing for the Frenchman, who showed very well in the early stages in Brazil and did very well to hold on to a point in Brazil. But really, there's absolutely no temperature in the hard tyres. So they've changed the tyre. They changed the way that the tyre models worked, and it is not great. I can confirm that, and it's one of the many things that will be reported after this race on the forums. So, lap 7, Gurney continues to lead comfortably from Rosberg. Beltois still in there, still doing a good job, the Frenchman. In third, not really at risk from Chris Eamon behind. Fourth is that, Eamon and Jabouin outperforming Jarier. As it stands, I suspect the championship leader would still be Jean-Pierre Jarier. Yes, it absolutely would be. But he is down in 8th. And it would be Reutemann and then Gurney, I believe, completing that top group. They are being very aggressive on boost, I must say, as Gurney hits from the lead. Very aggressive on boost. And Mansell, I think, is about to get left behind. He has been left behind. So poor Nigel Mansell left behind as Gurney goes on to the medium tyres. Clearly some connection problems for the Williams team, but Rosberg leads. Eamon has now passed Jean-Pierre Beltois. I suspect Eamon is going to be in at the end of this lap. So it's looking like it's going to be Lotus and McLaren going to the 4 again. Although Beltois is continuing to do a rather superb job. His teammate Rindt 10 places behind, battling with Depay, Pache, Scheckter. Gurney is now stopped. And I wonder if Ligier are going to try and go after Lotus because they have got McLaren right on their backs. But let's see. Chris Eamon enters the pits. And Mansell still being left a bit in the lurch. As now, I think it's starting to come towards the hard tyres as Depay now pops into the top 10. He's leading a group of 4 cars on those hard tyres. And yeah, they are boosting Ligier, but I'm not quite sure why. I don't think it's necessarily the wisest move. But there they are. They are boosting. They're trying to get somewhere, and Jarre has been left behind. He's not got up there with the Lotus cars. As Pizza now passes Jabouille, and Andretti's looking to do the same. Mansell still in 9th. So the real outliers in this top 10 are Beltois and Depay. The only men whose teammates are not around to fight with them. As Pizza now starting to catch Jarre. I think the hard tyres are working. I think McLaren may have done a pretty big masterstroke. The reversion of the tyre model, which they have kept for wheel to wheel the proper way that tyres should work, where they heat up in the corners and cool down in the straights. But for classic mode, they have reverted it so that the tyres heat up on the straights and cool down in the corners, and that is causing people a lot of problems. Rosberg leads rather comfortably over Jean-Pierre Beltois, who is looking rather good in the Aston Martin. He nearly won here, I believe, back in season 20, which had been his first victory. He had to wait 5.5 more seasons for that. But Beltois does indeed lead. Sorry, he is indeed second. He's catching Keke Rosberg. So that's nice for Rosberg. Beltois pits then. As does Andretti, and Jarre is trying to pull away, but he can't pull away from Peterson. So it's not really working, as we now have 48 laps to go. And it is looking pretty good for Ronnie Peterson at the moment. Andretti switches to hard tyres. They've got the fuel to make that work. I think Lotus have. They've got 3 litres more than McLaren started with, is my information. Gurney already up into 8th again. This could be something special from the 2-time champion, the most successful driver on the grid now that Alain Prost has retired. But anyway, Reutemann, Rosberg stays out. I think Rosberg wants to be coming in. Is this going to be a mistake? I mean, okay, so Williams are no longer in the session as live management, which means they may befall, or they may suffer the same fate that they had in Brazil, where they looked commanding early on, and then basically it all went rather wrong for them. But it is going to be a very difficult race, I must say, when it comes to... It's going to have to be a 4-stop as far as I can work out. So Jarre comes in. But this is going to be very difficult for... This is going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a very interesting IGP, is my view, as a lot of drivers are pit now, so let's have a look at who has pitted. Gurney's pitted, he's 4th. Eamon's pitted, he's 8th. They pitted very early on the undercut. Beltois was pitted, he is 12th on a 4-stop running mediums. Andretti and Reutemann both pitted for Lotus. They are 14th and 15th. And Jarry and Rindt, who have pitted for Ligier and Aston Martin, are 19th and 20th. Jabouille yet to stop, being caught by Eamon and Mansell. Peterson, however, is really all over the back of... And Peterson's in, and as is Andretti. That's a mistake by McLaren. They did not mean to double stack their cars. So that's going to cause them all sorts of problems later in the race. It's going to cost Michael Andretti quite badly. Definitely a mistake by McLaren in their race execution as Peterson rejoins in a big group with Rolf Stommelen. He's still ahead of Jarier, Andretti still ahead of Jabouille, Patch and Scheckter at the back. Rosberg still leads and yet to stop. I presume he'll be in this lap. I can only presume that he'll be in this lap. If he's not in this lap, then we're going to have some serious words with the way in which the execution is being done by Williams, because really they've had the car to win probably both of the first two races and they have not made the most of it at all. They really have not made the most of it. So Rosberg does pit on this lap, and Mansell also pits, so that's some saving grace. And frankly, given how quick that car is, they could still be on for some points come the end of the day. But more pit stops, both Williamses, both Arrows, both Nannini and Depay in. So the order now: Gurney, Eamon, Beltois, top three. Ickx yet to stop in 4th place. Andretti 5th, Reutemann 6th. They are 5 seconds ahead of Ronnie Peterson, who's just passed Rolf Stommelen. Jarry and Rosberg round out the top 10, ahead of Michael Andretti and then Jean-Pierre Jabouille. I don't expect the RWBs to really figure, but it'll be interesting to see what they do manage. But Peterson really needs to get a move on and get up to the back of Reutemann, because otherwise he's going to be in a bit of trouble. And he's missed out on DRS that lap, and that's going to cost him astronomically. Bit poor from Peterson as Andretti passes Rosberg, and Ickx slips down to 6th. The Lotus cars advancing up the field, but it is still a Ferrari 1-2. It is still Jean-Pierre Beltois in a comfortable 3rd, ahead of the Lotus pair, as Peterson uses more boost simply so he can get past Ickx and try and hold on to the back of Carlos Reutemann. And this is possibly going to be the battle for the win. I think Reutemann's being sacrificed to help Andretti. I'm not sure what they are trying to do here, but they're certainly going to break away from Peterson, a man who Lotus absolutely covet and would love to see in one of their cars. As Andretti can't really do anything to catch Jean-Pierre Jarry at the moment. But Lotus, I'm not quite sure of their tactics, but here we are. Certainly an interesting race so far in the first 20 laps. As Peterson is simply quicker than the two Lotuses that he's chasing, but he's not quite able to stick it in and get into the DRS and go for a move. But Gurney still leads. He'll be in for his first stop in a few laps, but he certainly is dealing with this in a pretty commanding manner. It's going to could end up being one of the more interesting results of the season. I don't really know what is going on with Lotus and Peterson, but they seem rather content to waste their boost, that group do. And without a manager here, I think it is a great shame for Williams, because I have a feeling they're not going to be able to deliver on their promise. But it's certainly... Oh, and now I say that, Williams are back. So it is possible, as Ickx has a go, passing Jarier, as Rosberg passes Stommelen, and Mansell's further back, Rindt in 13th. Peterson all over the back of Mario Andretti. Are they going to bother to waste the boost? Is that what the game plan is? Yes, it is. And it is working for Lotus, rather annoyingly, as Ickx now pits for the first time. And Eamon has caught Gurney. So Ferrari doing very well out front here. Aston Martin seem to have absolutely nailed the strategy of this race, because Beltois is certainly up there. I think that Lotus has done quite a good job against Peterson, and he's going to have to just sit behind him and try and hope for the best. But it's not really looking good in what we expected to be the main championship battle between Lotus and between McLaren. As Gurney pits from the lead, the race leader is into the pits. And Reutemann passes, gets ahead of his teammate Andretti. So Gurney rejoins ninth, and that's going to become 8th because he passes Jabouille. So it's Gurney's absolutely advancing fantastically up through the field. It's clear that the hard tyres, well, if you want to run 3 stops, then yeah, the hard tyres are the ones to go for, but it's looking like it's a marginal 3-stop, and the 4-stop that is being put together by, I think, both Beltois and the Ferraris is looking like something that could really cause some problems for the expected front runners today. So, Andretti passes Peterson, and now he's going to go after his father. Beltois then assumes the lead. He'll be in shortly. He's on the medium tyres. And I wonder if there's going to be boosting or attempted blocking from Lotus in this battle for third. Andretti holding up the 2 McLarens. Lotus done a good job to deprive McLaren of a great deal of their boost. Ligier sitting all right in 6th and 7th. Rosberg in 10th. I'm not quite sure if he'll be okay to hold on to that, given the sporadic appearances of the team throughout the race. I think Andretti's going to be in this. No, they're boosting Andretti, so clearly they are just trying to block McLaren, and I think that will work fine for McLaren because McLaren have got younger tyres, so they're going to be able to actually close up again on the next lap. It's Beltois still leading. Impeccable job from the Frenchman. I wonder if his teammate Rindt might snag a point, because Rindt is 12th, and he's doing a decent job. And with Williams possibly in a bit of trouble later on, it might be that Rindt is able to get into the points. But these guys are only 8 to 10 seconds ahead of Dan Gurney. And I think that's something they should be worried about, as Peterson with purple first sector, brilliant middle sector. It's quite clear that Michael Andretti can't really compete with this lot when it comes to outright performance. So, the leading quartet is, as we would have often expected, Reutemann, Andretti, Peterson, and the second McLaren, which we expected to be driven by Jody Scheckter, but is being driven by Michael Andretti. Well, that could be for the last time, but we'll see. As Peterson and Andretti go to fight, and Peterson goes ahead of the Italian-American. Up behind Reutemann. So Peterson's looking to take the lead. Ligier have really fallen away. I think they're struggling with tyre temperatures. Gurney's closing, and Eamon's closing, and Beltois closing. And this is certainly a very interesting race. And I would really be putting money on Jean-Pierre Beltois as it stands. I think Beltois has a genuinely good shot at victory today. It's the 4-stop, I think, is probably the better of the two. The better of the two strategies. And yeah, Andretti versus Andretti, the two Americans fighting over third, as Peterson running away at the front. Now he's making use of his younger tyres. Lotus have got to switch to a 4-stop. They've got to make that. They've got to do that, and they've got to commit to it. Question is, will they commit to it? I don't know. people who are having issues with tyre temperatures, basically because they've changed once again the model and reverted to how it used to be, which is worse. That's all I can say. It's a worse tyre heating model. But there we are. Not much that we can do about that, as it's now a McLaren 1-2. Peterson lead Michael Andretti, Carlos Reutemann, and Mario Andretti. And then 5th and 6th, the two Ferraris of Gurney and Eamon. 7th and 8th, the two Ligiers of Jarre and Jabouille. Beltois 9th, Rosberg 10th. And outside the points is Mansell, Pache, Nannini, Depaille, Ix, Cheever, Scheckter. It's really not going well for Tyrrell today, for whatever reason. And then Rindt and Stommelen at the back. And yeah, there we go. Okay, Lotus have realised that it is time to... They've realised it's time to commit to that 4-stop. And in comes Michael Andretti, and in comes Carlos Reutemann. So, an interesting change and adaptation by McLaren. And it means Peterson leads, Gurney, Eamon, Beltois, Jabouille stayed out. The two Williamses running quite nicely. And Andretti still comes out ahead of his father. So, on the medium tyres, Michael Andretti leads Mario Andretti. And Pache and Nannini are still in there. Ix is still in there. I'm interested to see the job that Ix is actually doing. I think it'd been interesting maybe if he was on a higher push level, because if that was the case, I think he might have been more of a factor. But as it is, not a factor. Quite simply, as we start lap 29, and Ronnie Peterson will undoubtedly be in on this lap, but he is being hounded by Dan Gurney. Absolutely hounded by Dan Gurney. The gap's 3 seconds, but Gurney's 2 seconds a lap quicker, so I think there's a move towards the 4-stop from the majority of the teams here. And that is pretty much thanks to the change in the update that I think came out yesterday, which changed the way that tyres work in regards to their heating. Because otherwise, I think we would have had quite a nice, normal Bahrain IGP. Alas, that is not the case. And we are watching, admittedly, a very interesting race as to how it's unfolding with the strategy, but not quite what we were expecting. Andretti's going to try and get DRS off Rosberg here as his teammate pits. I suspect Peterson's going to rejoin at the back of this group. And he does. He rejoins on the back of Carlos Reutemann. This 6-car group with the 2 Williamses, 2 McLarens, and 2 Lotus cars. And there goes Andretti passing Mansell. Peterson's going to have to make his way ahead as well. Ix is back up into 11th, but I don't think that's going to last because he's on a bit of an oddball strategy. So out front, and with really a commanding lead, because they are on a 4-stop, and the top 3 stopper is Peterson. And I think he's 20 seconds behind Gurney now. I think there's a genuine chance that Gurney, Eamon, and Beltois pull this off. I think there's a legitimate chance that those 3 make this strategy work and pull it off. As Eamon boosts up towards his teammate and boosts into the lead. So they're trying to get away from Beltois, who is in fact quicker. I think it's probably worth mentioning Beltois is quicker. So Eamon, Gurney, Beltois, that would be a very interesting top three, and it would certainly change the championship shape. But I think Lotus, with this result, would be quite happy, because Michael Andretti's not really a factor, and they are ahead of Peterson at present. Jackie Hicks still holding on in 8th, doing a pretty valiant job, I must say, to manage to hold on. And Rint is back up to 11th somehow, as the Williams cars have fallen back. Arrows are at the back now, and so are the Tyrrells. It's a bizarre race for Tyrrell. I can't quite recall seeing anything of the like of it ever. So Lotus doing their best to keep their cars together with DRS, which might well help them pull away from Peterson. Peterson may have missed a trick by not boosting up to try and get onto the back of that group. But anyway, Eamon now leads from Beltois. Gurney's falling away, and this is where it could be swinging back towards the likes of Andretti and co. But I mean, in terms of their boost, I'm not necessarily convinced. I think really Beltois is the man to watch. Beltois is the man who I'm looking at and thinking, yeah, this is the guy who's going to win the race. I think really the person who stands the best chance of winning apart from Beltois is Ronnie Peterson, and that pretty much depends on what traffic Gurney's going to get when he comes out of the pits. And if he comes out behind the Ligiers, then that's going to be quite interesting, as Michael Andretti tires are absolutely on fire now, as him and Reutemann had a boost match. And Gurney's ahead of the Ligier, so that's put Gurney right behind Ronnie Peterson, both of whom have one more stop to make. So that is going to be interesting. That's going to be a real thing to watch in the remainder of this race. As up, Ix is doing a pretty phenomenal job, I must say. And if he holds on to a point here, it's really one of the many reasons that he's so highly rated after last season. So, Reutemann doing his best to get into the DRS of Andretti, but I'm not sure he's not trying. It Eamon pits, leaving Beltois out front. As back again are Williams. I hope Williams can salvage a point from this. I think they really have the capacity to do so. I think Ligier will be happy. I mean, they'll lose the championship lead, but that was always a bit of a random thing to have happened with that win. So I suspect they'll be quite pleased if they can just get both cars in the points for the second race running. It would be a strong start to the season, and at a hotter circuit where they have historically struggled, as Beltois now pits from the lead, and that'll put Michael Andretti up into the lead. So Michael Andretti leads Carlos Reutemann, Mario Andretti, and Ronnie Peterson. Beltois going to rejoin in 5th. So Beltois stays ahead of the Ferraris. So this is looking very, very good for Jean-Pierre Beltois as it stands. Brilliant strategic call by the Aston Martin team, but I don't think anyone else planned to run a force-up all on mediums, which was Aston's plan right from the get-go this morning. So I think that's a pretty fantastic call by the Aston Martin team, as Andretti's not letting Peterson into his DRS. The thing is, all this is actually doing is costing them time to the guys behind. It's not really helping them. So Andretti Michael is pulling away at the front. Marius is not quick enough. He's just harming his own race, his team's race, and, well, Ronnie Peterson's race, but I'm sure that isn't his most pressing concern. But there we are. Ix been caught by Mansell. So it looks like it'll be Mansell rather than Rosberg if there's going to be a points finish for the Williams team. And Andretti finally pits. Let's see now, Peterson in clean air. What can he do against Carlos Reutemann? The gap, 2.5 seconds over the line as Gurney and Eamon exchange positions. What can Peterson do against Reutemann? In the first sector, he takes 0.6 of a second out of that lead, which is a pretty damn good effort. Ix still going. Ix could score points. I don't think he will, but he could. And I think whether or not he does, it's a very, very strong effort from him. I wonder if Lotus are trying to run and do a soft stint to bring it to the flag, which would be sensible, I must say, as Reutemann now does come into the pits. As Andretti Jr. is catching the Ligiers, but he's not really making much progress. Stommelen dead is what's been reported, which I presume is how slow he is, but he's still ahead of 4 cars, I think. 5 cars, even. So it could be worse for the German, the season 24 champion, who produced what was widely considered to be the worst title defence in championship history. So Stommelen is losing half a second to sector. RWE's experiments of strategy has not really paid off by the looks of it. I suspect Ligier are going to block the attempt of Michael Andretti to get DRS off Jarier. And they're not actually. Jarier stays out as Ix comes into the pits. Peterson continues out front, but he's not really got the boost. He's going to have to really save this up. He's going to have to run as long as possible. It's going to be very interesting to see if Peterson or Beltois is the one who wins this, because I have a feeling that it's going to be Beltois. And I think the Ferraris are legitimately going to be in the top 5. This is a very, very strange race, and it's been a very, very strategically interesting race, because none of the expected strategies to work have worked. It's been very interesting from that standpoint. And I think a lot of people who are expected to be front runners have not been front runners. So as Jarier pits and leaves Mansell open to be preyed upon by Andretti. But yes, I think the rate at which Peterson's losing time and his boost disadvantage, I can only presume that it's going to be Jean-Pierre Beltois who's going to take this victory in Sakir. He should have won in season 20 in this very race, as Stommelen now pits again, as does Jody Scheckter. 2 champions, 2 of the most successful drivers on the grid battling over last place really is not what you want to see. And it's a great shame that we are having to see it. As in comes Jabouille then. Bad news for Andretti as Reutemann passes Michael Andretti, the other Andretti. Andretti did, Michael that is, did suffer early on in the race with being double stacked accidentally by McLaren in the first round of stops. So I do wonder if maybe without that, it might have been a different story in his race. I think he's still driven pretty well, although not quite as well as some of the people around him. Stepaya now pits and rejoins in 18th place. I mean, one has to wonder if Tyrrell even repaired their cars or something, because this is just such bizarre pace that if they're too heavy, I can't understand how such a competent team and management structure would be doing so badly. Rosberg then pits for what may be the last time. As Michael Andretti struggling to keep up with Carlos Reutemann. I think Beltois is going to have DRS off the back of Peterson here. Peterson using a bit of boost to try and prevent that. So at the end of this lap, Peterson will make his final stop of the day. And I think it really is between Peterson and Beltor for this victory. I think those are the two candidates. And Peterson's going to do everything to hold on and make sure he doesn't lose out to Beltoir. I mean, Andretti's not... neither Andretti, I think, are quick enough to live with Reutemann. I think it would be helpful for Reutemann if Andretti and he were working together. I'm not quite sure. I'm expecting actually Mansell to be in this lap and Carlos Pache. So Peterson comes in for what should be a set of hard tyres, and it is a set of hard tyres. So Beltoir leads again, and Peterson rejoins right behind Nigel Mansell, which is not something he can really afford, given the age at which Mansell's tyres are. Rosberg passes Baldi. I think Williams are here, and they do have some boost, so I think there's a chance that they get the point, but it's not a certainty, as Reutemann passes Gurney. So this is what we're waiting for. This could be when it actually starts to come together for Reutemann and for maybe Andretti, but it's really Reutemann who's leading that charge, I must say. It really is Carlos Reutemann who's leading that charge, which is not expected. It takes second now as Gurney pits as they come on to lap 47. About to lose the lead, I think, to Carlos Reutemann. And no, he comes into the pits for what will be his final stint of the race. Reutemann then leads pretty comfortably from Michael Andretti, then Mario Andretti. Peterson is not that far ahead of Beltoir, and I think really this is going to be a Beltoir race. So, Reutemann has done a fantastic job, actually, to pull out this gap. It's pretty impressive, I think. He's done a very good job. Ick's still in the top 10, but he's going to get caught by Mansell, and he's going to get done by Mansell, and probably Rosberg as well, and possibly Rindt. So I don't think it's going to work out for Ick's. And Lotus with a double stack, that can't help Mario Andretti. And the Ferraris are still up here. And the Ligiers need to pit again, so they are not really factors. It's enough for Andretti, I suppose, to stick behind as Rindt comes in for his final stop. A lap after Beltoir, and he's going to rejoin, I think, in 18th place. But there's a lot of stops still to go. It's all very bizarre. It is all very, very strange what's going on. But I don't see Peterson being able to hold on. He lost too much boost. If he'd been more effective with DRS swapping, but, you know, it's all if, buts, and maybes. But I think this is going to be a race for Beltois. Andretti doesn't get DRS off Jarry. It's another poor bit of driving from Michael Andretti. Not doing the job he needs to do. To get an act on, he's got to get up behind Jarry and he's got to pass him. And he's got to hope that Jarry doesn't pit. I suspect Jarry might pit, and that's going to cause even more problems for the American. It could put him behind his father come the end of the race. Peterson's sector times are good at the moment. He's got 9 laps to go, and there's no way in hell he's going to hold on. Here's going to be Jarry pitting or not. Lucky for Michael Andretti as he moves up to 6th. He could probably get as high as 4th before the race is over. Reutemann, I wonder if he has his eyes on 2nd place for the 2nd weekend running. And back again are Williams trying to deprive. I'm sure they will deprive Jackie X at that point. But interesting, I have to say. Peterson out front. But his gap is not diminishing yet. His gap is not yet diminishing. That is a surprise to me. I'd have expected to see it starting to come down, but it's not, and that is very interesting. I can only presume that Lotus have focused on working with Beltois to try and catch Peterson, which would be a sensible thing to do. But Peterson is putting in a phenomenal performance on this pretty unfancied strategy, the 3-stop. I mean, no one else has really done it apart from Williams, so they've done a different version of it. And X has done a 2-stop and currently sits in 9th. I mean, his gap is stable somehow. I don't quite understand how he's managing to do that, how he's putting those lap times in. It doesn't quite add up to me. But the 2nd career win, and in the dry, and in the place where he should have had his first career win 6 seasons ago, would be absolutely fantastic for Jean-Pierre Beltois. Ferrari looking pretty good. I wonder if anyone will run out of fuel. That's always a worry. But let's see as we get towards the end of the race. And yeah, I think that Lotus and Beltois are now going to work together because Peterson is really putting in some absolutely superb sector times. And here comes Reutemann. And here he goes past Beltois. And can he now pull away? He's got slightly younger tyres. I'm not necessarily convinced he was much quicker, if at all quicker. It's, you know, it's the same thing with Andretti. He's got slightly younger tyres than the Ferraris, but he's making absolutely no gain on them. Absolutely none. Okay, so off goes. Maybe Reutemann's decided that the threat is Beltois and he wants to work with Peterson, which would be smart as a thing to consider. Can Reutemann suddenly change the face of this race in the last 5 laps and make it so that it's not a Beltois victory? That will be very interesting. What is going to happen now then? And Reutemann is starting to pull away, but he needs Peterson, and Peterson needs him. They need to boost with each other to make sure that they have any chance because Peterson's tyres are pretty much finished. I think Reutemann knows that. He needs Peterson. I know he tries to boost away, but Peterson is here now. And Peterson's going to be back in the lead at the start of lap 56. So with 4 laps to go, yes, it is 4 laps to go. It's not looking good now for Beltois, and it's not looking good for... I mean, yeah, the tyres seem... It's been a bizarre season of tyre performance. As Andretti looks like he might have a go at Gurney towards the end of the lap, and Rindt takes Cheever, and he's going to get, I think, Stommelen as well. Shame that Ix is... sorry, I was going to say shame that Ix is out the points, but he's not. He's very much in those points. And he's very much looking as though he might do something quite spectacular as Michael Andretti passes Dan Gurney. He's going to relegate the Ferrari driver out of the top 5. He's going to look to do the same with Eamon. Eamon, who finished 4th here last season. Ferrari finished 4th and 6th, with Carlos Reutemann separating them last season. But Reutemann really taking charge of this IGP now. But it's starting to go away from Peterson. His tyres are not holding on. And he's going to have a bit of a struggle. He's got to do it. He's got to stick with Reutemann if either of them are going to have any chance. But Reutemann doesn't... I don't get what Reutemann's doing, because all Reutemann's doing is reducing his own chance here. By trying to run away, he's just reducing his own chance. So that's a bit odd in my book, but there we are. I mean, yeah, Peterson has got absolutely nothing to give. His tyres are absolutely finished. And I don't, even with all his boost, I'm not convinced. Keke Rosberg pits at a very late time. Mansell is not quite close enough to do what needs to be done and get into the points. And Reutemann cannot defend. From the guys ahead. And here we are on the final lap then. I wonder if Reutemann will be quick enough to actually catch up to Peterson on this lap, because Peterson's going to struggle, I can tell you that much. And Beltois, I think, is going to have to wait and do it on the line. He's got the pace. He's got the pace to deny Peterson. And this will put Beltois into a 3-way tie in the championship lead with Peterson and with Reutemann. And Beltois takes the win, his second career win in Bahrain, from Peterson, from Reutemann, from Andretti. That's going to be Eamon. I think Gurney's going to get passed by Marin. No, Gurney stays ahead. So it's Gurney, Marin, Andretti, Jarier, Jabouille. Jackie Ix is going to hold on to the final point on a 2-stop. Mansell's going to miss out, and I think he's going to get passed by Nannini on the run to the line. No, he doesn't. He holds on. Then it's patchy. Rindt. Depay passes Stommelen, the old teammates. Cheever, Baldi, Scheckter should get Baldi. On Willie, no, he's not within DRS. And Rosberg last for the second race running. And that is very interesting. And